Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm so excited to be spending wherever you are in the world, evening, afternoon, maybe it's the morning for you. I'm so excited to be here today to be talking about a topic that has come up so many times. And today we're talking about beyond K-12, engaging adult learners with Lumio. There have been so many amazing conversations that I've had with you folks, whether it was in person at a conference, whether it was when I was on site with you. Hey, how can I use Lumia with adults? I see so many different ways to use it with the young kiddos. Give me some more ideas. So here we go. Let's talk about it. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Mish, and I am a learning and community designer here at Lumio and Smart. Prior to being here, I was a kindergarten and first grade teacher for Chicago Public Schools. So this is a fun topic for me to talk about because usually I am the one that talks all things littles. And so right before I left the classroom, I got my master's in curriculum and instruction and teacher leadership. So I'm super pumped to really be talking about how we can use everything with adults. If you follow along as well, I would love if you join me on my Instagram where I show lots of different tips and tricks for using Lumio. If you also happen to have a smartboard, I have lots of those tips and tricks on there. That QR code on the screen is directly for my Instagram. But without further ado, what I'm going to have everyone do is go ahead and join my Lumio class. So I always like to do webinars with everyone joined in first as a student, so you get an idea of exactly what it feels like. And I like to make all of my sessions make and take. So at the end, we're also going to create something together. So you have a couple options. You can follow along on the screen by going to lumioclass.com, join as a guest, and then there's my code, or there's a direct join link that's in the chat as well. And I always like to say, I really want you to do what's best for you. So if you're at home right now and you're just joining in on your phone or on your laptop and you've just got one screen, you're feeling overwhelmed and kind of switching between multiple tabs between our call and Lumio, if you feel like that's overwhelming, please feel free to just sit back and watch. Or if you feel like you like to be hands-on and you can handle kind of the navigating back and forth, I would absolutely love it if you joined my Lumio class live time. So I'm going to give everyone just another moment here. You'll go to lumioclass.com, join as a guest, and then my code is 181461. Laura, so nice to have you here today. I don't think we've met before, but hey, Leonard. Leonard is a friend local in Arizona. We've met quite a few times in person, and Leonard already knows I'm going to give him a shout out because his energy is so contagious. So I'm super pumped to see a couple of familiar names here in the chat. So if you are watching this as a recording later on, you don't need to go and do that lumioclass.com. You can just follow along now with the recording. So I would love to know who I've got here in the class with me. So on your screen, you have something called a shout it out, which allows for my participants to look at the questions on their screen and submit their responses. And I think that this is so important, especially when we're thinking about adult learners, because sometimes we don't want to raise our hand, whether we're just not comfortable with public speaking, we've had a really long day, or we're in a room full of strangers. This just gives everyone a different opportunity to participate. And while you guys are answering those questions, I'm going to give you a little personal story. So you should have two questions on your screen. One is, what do you teach? And then I'm curious how you currently engage your adult learners. So while you guys are answering those questions, I quickly have a little story. I was in person in Hawaii 2 weeks ago, and I was presenting to a group of educators at a conference. And it was day 2 of the conference. It was the afternoon. And if you've ever been to a conference, you know that they are so exhausting. And I had a couple of questions. My session had been all about data, and they were just being so quiet. They just simply didn't want to raise their hand and participate. And that was okay. I can read the room as a presenter. And so what I did instead was I actually put a shout it out in front of them. And all of a sudden, I had so many little responses popping up all over the screen, which feeds so perfectly into my point here is when we're thinking about adult learners, we have to think about where they are: busy, tired, shy, public speaking isn't for everyone. This really just gives all of our learners a different entry point to participate. And for some of us, maybe just typing a response is better. So it looks like I've got someone here who is a CTE teacher. I've got someone who works with math, finances, basic computer use, and business skills. And we've got Leonard here, who is a religion teacher. And let's see, well, how do you currently engage adult learners? Looks like we do some app smashing, learner centered projects, gaming, ownership, and autonomy. We have Laura here who uses Lumio with nonverbal students in person and also with adult learners in groups using mixed virtual and in person classes. Laura, I love that you are here and that this is what you've said because first of all, let's think about all the different ways we can engage our learners, right? Just like my story here, I had folks that were verbal and they had the opportunity to speak out loud, but then this is such a great opportunity for us to think about making learning more accessible for students who might be nonverbal. And so we're now giving them a different entry point to participate in something that might have initially been planned as a verbal discussion. And also, Lumio is really great for both virtual and in person classes. So I'm really glad that you have shared that with us. So, when we're thinking about adult learning theory, we always like to talk about the what, the how, and the why. And you're going to laugh because my screen looks a little funny here, but I had two different whys because I anticipated, and just like I did, I have two different folks here in the room with me. I have some that are teachers and maybe are at administration and work with teachers. And then I have folks that are adult educators for adult learners. So, what I always like to think about is the what. So, what we're going to do today is explore how Lumio can engage adult learners in PD workshops and adult education settings. And let me circle back to why this is a really good way to present information to adults. And that's because adults need context first. We are always the first ones in the room that are going to question things, that want to know why we're doing something because we're adults and we just know that we have to question the things that are around us. So before we really have them invest in something, it's really important that we tell them exactly what is going on, and that helps to set the stage. And so how we're going to do that is we're also going to think about experiencing interactive Lumio activities that model collaboration, reflection, and critical thinking. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you a question about what is really challenging about working with adult learners. And one of those responses, we're really going to think about how we can foster collaboration, reflection with our adult learners. And that really helps our adult learners to think about actionable steps that they can do immediately from the things that they're learning. And last but not least, here's my funny part is I have two whys because I anticipated having two different kinds of crowds here with me this evening. One is modeling Lumio during professional learning really helps our educators to understand our platform and then use it there with their students. So if I have anyone here in the room with me, whether you're watching the recording or you're here live time and you're administration and you have Lumio as a platform for your students, it's really, really impactful to use Lumio during your team meetings, during your PD, because you're modeling that software for your teachers and it really gives them kind of a little influence of how they can use it. But for the rest of us in the room, I always, the why is interactive Lumio activities make learning more engaging and accessible and relevant for adult learners. Accessibility is so huge. Just like Laura on our last page, she was using Lumio or using things like So for her students that were nonverbal or for students that might be a mix of in-person or virtual, and giving that why really helps us to make learning practical, especially for when we're thinking about PD, higher ed, any kind of workshop training. We really want our learners to leave with skills or strategies that they can really apply tomorrow. So here's my question for you. When we're thinking about working with adult learners, what is the greatest challenge that you face? So I want you to think of one word. What one word comes to mind when you think about working with adult learners specifically? Like, what's the greatest challenge in keeping adult learners engaged? Participation. I saw that firsthand last week when I was presenting at that conference. Like I said, it was day 2 of a conference. It was the afternoon, and they just didn't want to talk. I had their undivided attention. No one was on their phone. Everyone was listening. Everyone was making eye contact, but they just didn't want to raise their hand. So I was really excited to be able that I was using Lumio as my presentation tool, because once I gave them a different entry point to answer my questions, they were there with me. Yeah, it looks like fatigue, boredom. As adults, our attention span, y'all, if you take a look at me, it's this big, right? That's why TikTok, Reels on Instagram, that's why those work for us because they're right in our hand. They're 30 seconds to like under a minute, and it really helps to keep our attention going. Got lots of different submissions coming here. So time, distractions, participation, fatigue, all those great things. So, why did I ask you that question, right? So we're always thinking about how we can keep those adult learners engaged. And it really comes down, in my opinion, to three things: relevance, interaction, and modeling. When we think about relevance, we really need to help our learners, and this is relevant to early learners too, to our students, is adults need to see how activities connect to their real world roles or their lives. We do the same with our young students, right? They're always like, oh, Miss G, thanks for telling me this, but when am I ever going to use this in my real life? Who's heard that from either a student, their child, who said that themselves when they were a student? We've all been there. So connecting it to things that they're really doing is so important. The next one is going to be interaction, right? So engagement grows when learners collaborate, discuss, and apply ideas. So just talking at adults is never going to be practical. But if we're giving them the ability to turn and talk, to make the connections, to discuss with each other and apply their learning, their brains are thinking more so about exactly what it is that we're talking about versus just kind of like listening and taking that information. And then last but not least, modeling. So experiencing active learning with Lumio shows strategies that they can use with their students, especially for those folks that are listening here that might be using Lumio to really influence teachers to use it in their classrooms. So something that I want to think about is I like to give my learners options like pacing themselves, choosing an activity, or working individually or in groups that really supports different learning styles and then helps everyone feel ownership in their learning. I'm a visual learner. I don't know about you guys, but I wanted to see this picture. Like, this is what we always want to go in, and we want when we're presenting, when we're teaching, this is what we want to see, right? This is like the dream scenario. And if you hang tight with me for just a few moments here, this isn't what it's always going to look like. And what you need to know is that that's okay. It's okay. But we're going to think about in a few minutes here what we can do to make sure that we can get closer to this every time we're doing a presentation. So experience matters. And what I mean by that is it's really important that we're allowing adults to connect learning to what they already know. So just like I said a moment ago, by giving opportunities to not just talk at adults, but giving them the opportunity to turn and to talk to their table partner or to have a discussion, even with just you as the instructor, to really be able to give them a moment to think, okay, you've said this to me. Let me connect it to something that I know, is really going to show that what they've experienced in their life or in their career or in their learning thus far matters and is a stepping stone to advancing what they're now going to be learning. Autonomy motivates. So choice and self-direction boost engagement. I actually just earlier today, if you don't work with students, that's okay with young kiddos. But earlier today, I did a Lumio live and it was all about supporting students with choice boards. And while we talked about kiddos in the classroom, I couldn't stress enough that it's also very important as adults. We know we love to have choices, not too many, because if you're like me, then you get too overwhelmed. But if you give me like 2 to 3 to choose from, I can make a choice that I think is going to be more enjoyable for me, which increases my engagement. But B, maybe I'll pick something that I think I'm better at, which then as you as my instructor gives you a better understanding of where I'm at with my learning. We talked a lot about in my session a few weeks ago when we were talking about student data about just like a paper test. Think about yourself when you were a student in the classroom. Think about the testing anxiety that you might have had. That's not for everyone. What I relate to is if you come and you talk to me, I'm much more able to show you and to explain to you what I know. I struggle a lot with that paper and pencil. So really giving those folks a choice and that self direction not only boosts engagement, but I think as an instructor just gives us such a more authentic viewpoint of where our students are, whether they're early learners or they're adults. And then, of course, immediate application. I think that this is, I'm going to do a big sigh because I was just having this conversation with someone of what I'm gonna unleash a can of worms here, I think. But I think that an issue that I saw when I was learning a new language was it was like every week, memorize this vocab list. Now memorize this vocab list. And what I wish had happened instead is, hey, turn to your partner and use, XYZ words in a sentence. Try using it in conversation. So for anyone here that's using, as an adult learner is teaching a new language or you're teaching them a new practical skill, let them try it immediately. Don't wait too long because remember, yes, Tisha's saying in the chat, memorization only takes a student so far, no matter their age. I could sit and I can try to memorize. That's not for me. I was never a good studier because I felt like it was just a ton of memorizing. But if you ask me to actually show you something and talk about it, and especially if you did it immediately before it escaped my brain, then you get, again, that more authentic response. Collaboration counts. Sharing experiences deepens understanding. And I think that ties back to my first point of experience matters is we need to show as adult educators. We have to show and give opportunity for folks to share what they've been through, their experiences, because we have to show respect to everything that they've been through. We have to show value to who they are and to their experiences and to their knowledge that they've already built up until this point in time. Tisha says real world experiences is the best learning. Research proves this. We love a research moment. Respect for expertise. Look, I'm like talking about the next thing already. Let participants share stories and insights. We are where we are today because of all the things that we've been through. We are lifelong learners, and what we learned yesterday affects what we're doing today. So it's so important. Even if you feel like you're teaching this adult something totally new, they have something that they've experienced in another day that can tie right into this. And last but not least, make it interactive. So on your slide, you've had all these little bubbles that you can interact with. And I have another interactive slide coming up for you next up. And so it's really important to be able to switch up between using things like response, where we did that word cloud, super sort, we're about to do one together, and multimedia pages to keep the energy up. I don't want to just talk at you. I want you to give you the ability to click through. I want you to be able to drag and drop activities to really just not only listen, but do with your hands. Not everything can be hands-on, right? Like sometimes learning a new language is not a hands-on activity. I speak for myself as a hands-on visual learner. I need something tactile to do. But then doing something like this really keeps that energy up and keeps everyone on task. All right. So speaking of making it interactive, why don't we do that? All right. So I've got a little scenario for us here. So I'm going to build a scene. You are leading a professional development session for teachers at the end of a long school day. If you are not one of my admin in the room here, think about also something that you might be doing. So I know I've got Leonard here. Leonard, think at the end of a long workday, someone is coming to you for your religion class, or Laura, someone is coming to you for your whether it's virtual or in-person class. They've already had a really long workday, but at the end of the day, they've come to you. The group seems tired. Few people are participating and their energy is low, but you know that you still have to cover this new important thing before they leave for the day. Okay, so using the couple things that we've talked about so far, I want to know how you would re-energize this group. So this picture is kind of the opposite of the one that we saw a few slides ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn this into a workspace. Now, if you're new to Lumio, if I was with you all in person, what I would have loved to do is turn this into a group workspace, because like we said a couple slides ago, there is value in turning and talking, because that gives a moment to not just answer the question that I have on the screen, but you can now get involved in conversation. And there's so much good thing that comes out of just having a really simple conversation with someone, guided or unguided. So in person, I would have loved to do a group workspace with you all. But since we're virtual, I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a whole class whiteboard, which I still think is really helpful, especially when we're thinking about applying to different learners. Because on the left side of your screen, you have a few different tools that you can use to answer my question. You can grab the pencil and you can draw on my screen. You can go to my gallery button, which is the one with the heart and the plus. There are stickers. You're kind of like little emojis if you want to react to something that someone else has said. You can bring in an image if that's something that you feel like you can bring something that represents what you'd like to share. Or some of us don't love typing. You also have the ability to click on the microphone and record yourself. So I'm going to give everyone a moment to think about this response. So, using what we've learned about adult learning and engagement, how can you re energize this group? Looks like someone says, I'd start with a quick interactive poll or word cloud so that everyone can jump in immediately. That's exactly what I saw in that session that I was doing a couple weeks back in Hawaii, where I kept asking questions and I felt like no one was really raising their hand. But as soon as I made it interactive in Lumio, I had so many responses popping up on the screen. So I learned very quickly that this group of adults that I'd never met before, so I didn't have the ability to really be their teacher to learn more about them. But I learned really quickly that raising their hand was not going to be how that session was going to go. But being able to submit answers really helped. Got lots of ideas coming in here. I love the engagement. I'm going to move this one over. Okay, so I hate icebreakers. So I usually try to have a blether about something random to start interacting. I love that. I think we all feel very similarly about icebreakers. We've tried so many different icebreakers. How many more get to know me activities can we do, or would you rather type games? But sometimes just a little funny moment can be a really good way to get everyone excited and awake and ready to participate. So this person over here said, give participants a choice of activities so that we can engage in the way that works best for us. And over here, we have a short game or challenge related to the topic would definitely boost energy. Thank you so much for participating with me. Another reason why I love doing this within my Lumio is in an adult learning class, typically we're probably seeing our learners once a week, right? And so it's really hard for us to remember every conversation that we ever had. So doing something like this in Lumio also documents all of our thoughts that we had. So let's say you guys were my students and you were coming back to me next week. I actually would have the ability to then come in next week with you. You can rejoin this exact same session, and we have all of these thoughts that would still be here for us. Thank you so much. I love all the engagement that's happening here. Pair people up to discuss a small problem. And again, whole group may not be for everyone. A small group is less intimidating, especially for an adult that's been through a lot that day. It's just a safer space for them to share. Looks like we've got being a good listener at the end of the day. Visuals has been a great success. Showing a real classroom example helps make it relevant right away. I love it. Thank you all for all of these great contributions. And just in case you didn't know, in Lumio, even though we're doing this way and I don't get to hear you guys, I do have the ability to click and then see who made that contribution. So it looks like that one right here belongs to Laura. And again, all this work is saving right here for us. All right, so I'm going to have you guys play a game, and then in just a few moments, we're going to create our own game together, and very soon we'll be all done. And the reason I'm making this webinar so fast is because we're adult learners and our attention spans are pretty short. It's the end of the day. We're tired. We have a million things to do, like laundry, dishes. So let's get to it. This is a superstore game, and really often when I have participants come up to our Lumia booth at a conference, they'll say, "Hey, this looks like it's really for little kids. How can I use this with my high schoolers, my college kids, my adult learners are coming to me for evening classes?" So I made this game relevant to what it is that we're talking about right now. But take a look here. Here we are as adults playing a sorting game. So I've got two categories here: engages adult learners and disengages adult learners. So you can actually click on these and then drag and drop them into the right buckets. So peer collaboration engages our adult learners, long lectures disengages, which is why I'm going to get us to make something really soon, because I want you guys to have your hands-on practice. So take one more second to engage with this activity, and then I'm going to show you what it actually gives you as the educator in the room. I'll give you just a few more seconds here. All right, go ahead. If you are swapping between two screens, come on back to our call here. And what I'm going to do is show you that I can go to view progress, and it looks like I've got 3 students that are done, one that hasn't started yet, and that's okay. So again, I'm going to tie back to Laura here. Laura, sorry, I keep picking on you, but you had a great response, but you've got a mix of your virtual and in-person students. And then also, one of the things that we talked about earlier when I had that word cloud was, what's your greatest challenge with, adult learners? Distraction, time. It's the end of the day. So this gives the ability, I can also show you at the end how I can give you this link to work on your own time, so that no matter what your adults are up to, your adult learners, they have the ability to access this. I'm going to really quickly go to student progress here, and I can also click to see how each of my students are doing. All this data saving right here for me. So I'm going to just click on Samantha, and here looks like Samantha's doing a great job. And so as the educator in the room, whether I'm working with you as my adults in a college course, a trade school type platform, maybe you're in one of my religion classes for adults like Leonard here that's on the call with us. Right here, I'm able to capture some data, which helps me to know when I'm preparing for my class, when you guys revisit me next week, exactly what I need to do. Or in this moment, if I still have another 20 minutes of my class left, let's just imagine that Samantha didn't get a lot of these correct, and I looked at her score compared to everyone else's, and maybe everyone was doing poorly. Right away, as the educator, I can pivot what I'm doing and take a moment to take this data and change what we're going to do for these next 20 minutes, instead of having my adults sit here and struggle as I move forward. I also have the ability, once I drop that down, to click on export results, which will generate an Excel sheet for me. So again, as I'm preparing for my adults to come back to me in a couple weeks, I have all that there for me. So I've been talking at you, which I said is not a great thing for us to do. So in just a moment here, we are going to get to build our own Super Sort. So Super Sort is the game that we just played, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to create a game. But really quick, I always like to feed everyone with a couple of ideas. No matter what it is that you teach, I really think everyone can do a Super Sort. So for my trade program folks, if you're in nursing school, you can talk about acute versus chronic diagnosis. I know we have lots of folks that go to esthetician school. You can talk about different types of treatments. My computer science folks, technical call versus customer support call. My dad's an IT guy, and the amount of calls he gets that he's like, hey, calling the wrong IT guy over here. So really fun sorting activities there. For my adult night classes, that can be for your religion. You can sort instances that are from the Old Testament versus the New Testament. We have lots of folks that are learning English, so you can maybe sort different parts of speech. Parenting classes is a pretty common one that folks are taking as adults, so we can talk about cognitive versus social development. And then for my admin leadership in the room, working with teachers, you can use it to talk about different kinds of instructional approaches, whether something is teacher-led or student-centered. Is the feedback that we're giving descriptive versus evaluative? Give some different examples there. So I've given you a couple of ideas, and I know I've got a few different people here in the room. Before we start building, let's share our own ideas. So this is another whole class whiteboard. So you can click on the A on the left, and then click on the screen to get your text box. And I want to know what you are going to make your game about. And then in a moment, we are going to create. So go ahead and shout out what you are going to make yours about. Looks like we've got someone that's going to do research methods. So sort examples into qualitative versus quantitative data. Oh, that is amazing. I was with someone a couple weeks back that was in a psychology program, and they were working on a super sort that was sorting characteristics of introverts versus extroverts, which I thought was fun. My household is pretty divided. I'm the extrovert, if you can't tell. And then my better half is an introvert. So we've got some very different character traits here in the house. Looks like someone's going to be doing a shape sorting. Communication style, so sort statements into assertive, passive, or you can do aggressive or passive aggressive. Ooh, that's a good one. All right, let's get to it. So here's what you're going to do. I'm again going to give you guys 2 different options because you know yourself better as a learner. If you want to just sit back and watch as I create a game, please feel free to do so. Or if you feel like you can kind of navigate two screens, what I'd love for you to do is go ahead to golumio.com, and it is free to join. If you don't have an account yet, what you're going to do is just click on sign up, and you're going to take a moment to do so. So golumio.com. Tisha just put that in the chat for us. Digital citizenship and informational literacy. We've got the different things in Old versus New Testament. There we go. So I'm going to click on end session. And again, everyone here, if you are watching this live time or the recording, if you feel like you can navigate between two screens, go on over to golumio.com. If you don't have an account yet, just click on sign up. It is free to join. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you how easy it is to build a super sort. All right. So for those of us that are there, all you're going to do is your screen should look like mine. And here is what you're going to do. So you're going to click on new, and you're going to get this menu of all the different things that you can do in Lumio. I'm going to really quickly pause, and I should have said this a second ago, but if this is one of your first few times actually using Lumio as a teacher, we have a Getting Started with Lumio webinar where I go super, super slow-mo of all the things you need to know of being on the teacher side of things. And I think maybe, Tisha, if I can ask if you can quickly share the recording of that in the chat, that might be helpful for anyone that is brand new to using Lumio. But I'm going to navigate to this button right here that says Game-Based Activities. If you're following along, please feel free to do the same. And then I'm going to go to Super Sort. This is the template. This is how simple it is to do so. So I am thinking I'm going to do my example on being in a nursing program, and I'm going to do acute and chronic. And so let's think of some examples. Maybe a broken arm is acute, maybe the common cold. And then we're going to do a heart attack. And then for chronic, I'm going to put diabetes. I'm going to put asthma. I'm going to put high blood pressure. Okay, so again, no matter what it is that you teach, there are so many different ways that we can use this. I'm going to click next. There are some different themes here for my adult learners. We've got some simple ones. There's like a white one, a purple, orange, blue. You can also do custom. I always like to do custom because I'll make my background something that's relevant to what it is we're learning about. I'm going to do blue for today. And then that's it. Once it's done loading, we're all done. For my adult learners that might be doing this asynchronously, what I can also do is click on my little guy up in the top right corner, and I can record myself giving instructions. So I might say, read each of the tiles and sort them into the buckets. Is it something that is acute or chronic? And so now my student that might be logging in will see that just there. All right, from here, I do have the ability to rename my game. So I might say acute versus chronic, and I can also rename my file. Tisha, thank you so much. Tisha put the link in the chat for our Getting Started with Lumio webinar. So I'm not going to dive into all the logistics of delivering this lesson now during this call. There is a recording in the chat here. Or if you found this video on YouTube, if you click on Lumio's account, you should see it down below if you are watching the recording. And you go to our playlists, you will see that recording there as well, Getting Started with Lumio. And that is where I will show you exactly, it is me, I will show you how you can now deliver this lesson. Really quick, what I'm going to do is come back now to the session that we were in and share with you guys a couple more resources, and then we will be on our way. The goal was to keep this short and sweet today. All right. As you're thinking about doing professional development, working with adult learners, we also have a toolkit. So if you're new to Lumio, on the top of your screen when you're logged in as a teacher, you have My Library, and then a couple tabs over, you have something called the Lumio Library. And that is a full library of pre-made resources that you can use. And one of the sections there is called toolkits. So we do have one that was created by one of our incredible team members, Holly, and it is our professional development toolkit. So she's got some really, really great ideas in there of how you can continue to use Lumio with adults as it pertains to professional development. So there's a section there on community building, self-directed learning, experiential learning, and orientation to learning. So some really great ideas there for you with some templates that you can just walk away with and use, apply right away. If you're still logged into my Lumio lesson, you can actually click right onto this rectangle here and it'll take you right to that page. Okay. There are lots of really good resources for you beyond that. So I'm going to start on the right side of my screen. We have an incredible academy, which I just a few weeks ago became one of the folks that gets to work on the academy. And we just switched over to a new platform, which is so easy to use and so easy to track your learning. So there is a course on there as well for getting started with Lumio. And then there is a couple other levels that you can take if you'd like your learning to keep going. And so what you can do is make an account on the Academy that is going to be separate from your Lumio Academy. That is the great place to go to have some self-paced learning. We talk a lot about self-paced learning is really helpful for adults. We also have tons of webinars just like this one. We have a few more scheduled. And actually, in just a couple of weeks, we have one of our incredible ambassadors, Devin Caldwell. If you've never heard her speak, you are in for a treat. She is also doing a webinar on using Lumio for adult learners. I think she's going to be talking more also about using it with students in college. So make sure that you register for that one. All of our webinars are recorded and can also be found on our YouTube page. Tisha is dropping all of this in the chat here for us. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is our global community. So if you love Lumio and you feel like, hey, I feel like I want to be part of a community of other folks using Lumio, this is what you need to know. All you need to do is apply. It's a very quick little application. And from there, you have a platform. Imagine like Facebook, but just for users, for people using Lumio. That's where we go to announce any of those new updates coming out, where folks from all over the world, because we're a global company, are sharing what they're using Lumio for, sharing their files, their templates, their ideas. And we also love to see our ambassadors present on our webinars. Like I just said, Devin, who's presenting another webinar in a couple weeks on this exact topic, she started as a teacher using Lumio, and now she gets to present our webinars, which we're so lucky to have her. So please do tune into her session. And the very last thing you guys have to do is if you would like to receive the certificate and the credit hour for this course, if you are logging that, we would love it if you submitted this form here. It's also going to be in the chat for you in just a moment. But with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Like, again, for most of us joining, it's probably the evening. So I appreciate you spending the evening with me. If you're watching the recording, thank you for taking the time. We always appreciate it. And if you ever have any ideas, or if you'd like to see a webinar about something, we love your ideas. We love feedback. Please let us know what else we can do. So thank you everyone so much for your time, and we'll see you all next time.